So kind of a weird way this all connects. The bassist of the first band that I was in, he got really into Japanese and was like, start taking Japanese with me and we can like talk. Nobody will know what we're talking about.
So this podcast is about your journey in music and obviously the new band and how you guys started and what you have going on now. You're also, are you still in Softspoken or not in that band anymore?
Yes. Yeah, I am still in Softspoken.
Okay. Do you mind touching on that? I know it's part of your journey.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure how, sometimes people don't want to talk about other bands, but
yeah, no, I'm pretty much open about whatever you want to ask me. So
sweet, that works out. Awesome. So first off then, where were you born and raised?
I was born in a small little town called Verona, Kentucky.
Okay.
It's about 30 minutes south of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm in Verona now, actually at my parents' house. So kind of I've traveled abroad and stuff, but still living close to home right now.
That's nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So south of Cincinnati. I have family in Cleveland, so I was
okay.
Yeah. So you're and then now I'm in Nashville, so I'm kind of in the center between between the two of you. That's cool. What was it like growing up there?
It's good. A very small country town. Like my graduating class in high school had 80 people maybe.
Oh my gosh.
So, everybody kind of knows. It's grown a lot lately, but everybody kind of knows each other's names. You go to like Kroger is our like local supermarket. And I'll see people I know and stuff. So that it's been a very like good communal feel, I definitely think, I always think it's important to get out of your hometown and experience something else to like broaden your view of the world. So there's definitely that aspect of the town, but I had a great childhood growing up and I love the area still. So
that's really cool. And 80 people. Wow. My graduating class had 1,200.
Yeah. I can't imagine. Yeah.
That's nuts. That's cool though. Well, how did you get into music?
So I guess my first intro to music was my older brother. He's like 11 years older than I am. So when I was a kid, he was into like Nirvana, The Cure, Smashing Pumpkins. So I kind of grew up listening to that because that's what he was listening to. And that got me into like rock and stuff. And he played in a band. He's a engineer. He has like a recording studio and stuff now.
Right.
So that kind of got me into it. Initially, I guess I wanted to be like him. And then, I had friends who were into music and it just kind of continued from there.
Rad. Wow. 11 years. My sister and I are 11 years apart, but I'm the older one. So it's funny talking to her because she like vaguely remembers me living at home and
right.
Because by the time I was 18 and going to college, I was gone and she was, 7, 8 years old at that time.
Right.
I'm curious to know, like, do you remember your brother living at home or like, was that?
Yeah.
I mean, was it weird trying to say, like, I mean, you obviously were influenced by what he was doing and everything, but it's just interesting because the age gap is so big.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear your end of it just as my sister, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's like, I'm not sure if it's actually memories or just like old pictures that I see that have made memories in that sense. But like, I do have some memories of being at home and then like he moved, like when he turned 18, he moved to New York City and went to school up there for recording and stuff. And then he came back and lived at home again for a period of time when I was a bit older. So I feel like I remember that more,
Sure,
than when I was a kid. But yeah, I mean, my brother's awesome. We have a really tight knit family in general. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that is really cool. So he got you into music. What was the first instrument you learned?
So actually, the first thing I ever had was a drum kit when I was 4 or 5. But I quickly switched to guitar because that's what he plays. And I'm actually like ambidextrous, but I do a lot of things left-handed. And he was the one that told me like, no, you want to play right-handed because it'll be easier, long term.
Oh, really? So you started off trying to play lefty?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, like my natural inclination is to do everything left-handed. But yeah, he told me, he worked at a guitar store. He's like, it'll be easier for you, when you're older, you'll thank me for making you do this. And I was like, okay. But
do you thank him or she went lefty?
No, I do. Yeah. Lefty guitars are harder to find and they're more expensive. So
sure.
Yeah. But
so you went to guitar pretty soon. And were you in a band or anything like that growing up? I mean, 80 people in your graduating class, it must have been hard to find other musicians? I don't know.
Yeah, like kind of. I wasn't really in a band, in the traditional sense until I was 17, maybe. And there were two guys older, like a year older than me. Actually, Garrett, who's in The Difference Between, is one of those guys that I was in my first band with. And we all went to the same high school, and we were in like high school bands together.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of found out that we, at the time we were really into like Devil Wears Prada and like the bands of the scene. And we were like, let's write music like that, So I think my actual band experience started when I was like 17.
Okay. And then did you end up going away to college, or did you start? Is that when did Softspoken become like, because he was in that band as well with you, right, Garrett?
Yeah. So our first band, which is how we met, Chris, vocal Chris, and Difference Between back then. We played for like 3 or 4 years, and did pretty well in the MySpace era.
Oh, okay.
And then kind of broke up because of college. We all, like, a couple of the members moved to go away to college and stuff.
Was Chris in that band as well with you guys, or no?
No. So Chris, back then, this was like, I'm 32, so this was like 12 years ago or something.
Sure.
He, at the time, like when I first met him, he was in a band called Corsets Are Cages, which became Emerosa.
Emerosa, right? Okay.
Yeah. Like after he left, they changed their name, but and then he was in another band after that called the Revival Sound. But we played a lot in our respective bands in the Kentucky area.
Oh, okay. You played shows and stuff together.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we were in the same like local scene together, and that's where we first met him. And Garrett back then played drums in the band that I was in. So yeah, we did that for a bit, and then I kind of jumped around, started a couple of other bands here and there that didn't really work out that well. And then I actually kind of took a break from music when I finished college. I think a lot of people that at least go to college, like, kind of have that moment where you get out of college, like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Right.
So I definitely had that moment, and I decided I was going to take a break from music, and I moved to Japan was my solution. So.
Oh, wow. Did you go to college for music or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was actually a history major, and my
what
focus was
Japan. Was it Japanese? Was that one of your focus? Sorry, I cut you off. But.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, I studied East Asian Studies, was like my minor.
Okay.
And then I took, so kind of a weird way this all connects. The bassist of the first band that I was in, he got really into Japanese and was like, start taking Japanese with me and we can like talk. Nobody will know what we're talking about. So I was like, okay. So I started taking Japanese, and I don't know. I just kind of like, I guess I don't like to brag about myself. I can kind of figure out languages easy. I feel like
that's
it's like
cool.
a puzzle.
That's a cool skill to have, because that's totally opposite of me. I lived in San Diego my whole life, next to the border, and my Spanish is like, I can understand it, to a degree, but like regurgitating it back, and like a lot of my friends picked it up like, easily, and for me it's so difficult for me to learn another language. So people that can do that, I'm like that's rad.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know, I just always see it as like a puzzle, I guess, and there's a way to figure it out. But so I started studying Japanese, and then when I finished school, I took a trip over there, and just on a whim, there was like this English like teaching company kind of that was like doing hiring, like interviews, open interviews. And I was like, I'm gonna go see, just see what happens, like as I was on vacation. And I got back home after vacation, and they emailed me, or like, hey, we want to hire you. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of decided to move to Japan.
Wow.
Yeah. So I lived there for like a little under 4 years.
Really? What was it like adapting to the culture and everything? Because some people move there, in the military sense, where they get to live on the base, but you got to like really be in it.
So yeah, I think where I was going, when I was in college here, when I was taking Japanese lessons, I got connected with some Japanese families that had moved to this area. There's a lot like in the Cincinnati area for like automotive companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I started tutoring those families in English. So I made a really good like relationship with one of those families, and they lived in the city that I ended up moving to in Japan. So adapting to Japanese life wasn't super hard, because I kind of had like a family in a sense there
Mhm.
already when I moved there. So that was it was different for sure. It's like I kind of knew the language, but I learned when I got there I didn't know it as much as I thought I did.
Right.
So
I'm sure there's slang and like,
yeah,
traditional sense of learning this, reading it through a book or whatever is much
right.
different, I'm sure, than being totally immersed in it.
Yeah, so I definitely had those moments where I just like sounded like a total idiot, but but that's how you learn. So
Sure.
but
That's
but yeah,
cool.
it was a great experience. And so when I was there, I wasn't playing music at first, and then I got kind of sucked back into music. And I played in a band over there for a little bit. It was like a pop punk band. That I had a friend that played in, and they were like, "Oh, we need a guy to play guitar." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And then that band got sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you guys sing in Japanese?
No, so the singer was from Australia, so it was all in
Oh,
English.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. And but the other members were all Japanese, and that band was signed to a label in Tokyo, and we just kind of
Wow.
did our thing for a little bit. But then I had some like I mentioned, my family is really tight, like extended family, aunts and uncles and stuff also, and a few of my dad's siblings, like my aunts and uncles, passed away while I was over there, and I just kind of felt like I needed to come back home.
Mhm.
So I did that, and that's kind of when Softspoken started.
Okay, when you got back home.
Yeah, yeah,
And you guys have had some incredible success as
yeah,
Softspoken.
yeah. We've done pretty well, for being an independent band. Pretty happy with what we've been able to do.
Yeah. And how did that kind of start moving? Like, did you get put on like a bigger tour? Like, how did that band kind of get off the ground?
Yeah, so I guess like at first when I first moved back, my goal with that band was to like do it right. Was which in hindsight there were a lot of things that I didn't do right, but uh so I wanted to do everything properly from the start, take time, write the right songs, go to the right producer, release things with right marketing and all that kind of stuff. So, I think I spent as much time as I could to like learn how the industry works so that I
Mhm.
knew what I needed to know before we were at a point to need a manager or a team or whatever. I recognized that I needed to know that stuff myself. So I think a lot of the growth of the band was from me learning, and by extension the other guys also learning, and I was just like pushing as hard as we could. And I don't know if I would say there's one like standout tour necessarily that
Mhm.
pushed us over the edge. I think it's just been like 5 years of grinding and trying to like, I mean, we've invested a lot of our own money into it and
Mhm.
just trying to like continue pushing it as hard as we can.
That's cool. And what was the reason to start the difference between, and how it must be hard to run two bands?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Um, so yeah, like soft spoken, they're kind of similar stylistically,
Mhm.
but I try to keep them as different as I can. But soft spoken, we kind of, in terms of our sound, especially with our most recent EP, we're kind of going into like I call it like modern core, kind of like octane
Mhm.
areas, kind of where we're going. And I think where soft spoken is, it's like we in a sense there's a pressure to like maintain the quality. So there's like when we sit down to write, it's a lot more of like a strategic thinking, like okay, we have to make sure the song fits this certain expectation in a way.
Mhm.
And there's still like a creative aspect of it, but it's much more like there's also a business side of it, I guess is how I would say it.
With
And so
this
the
band,
difference
more so with this band, or more so with Softspoken?
with soft spoken, sorry,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
And then this band, initially, like I've been friends with Cody for a long time. We met when his other band, Ascent Like Wolves, toured with Softspoken in 2017.
Oh,
And
okay.
and so we've always kind of chatted about like just doing a side project thing. And then, last year when the industry was shut down and we weren't really doing anything, he sent over just like basically a whole song of drums and was like, "Hey, see if you can, write something cool to this." So I was like, okay. And then, what I wrote was like this Norma Jean sounding kind of song. And I was like, this is pretty cool, man. Like we should keep going with this and see what else we can do. So it kind of was just like a release, I guess, a creative release for both of us.
Mhm.
And like the style of difference between is much more kind of old school post hardcore, which is what comes naturally to me. Like I don't have to think about how to write it. I'm just writing it.
Mhm.
So it's much more just like a just going to get it out kind of creative process, I guess.
So this whole project started over COVID, it sounds like, or
Yeah.
like quarantine.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, so how did the rest of the record come together, and how did you end up getting, Chris to sing on the album, or to join the band? Like, how did it all kind of come together?
Yeah. So I think Cody and I really started writing, I think it was like November maybe of last year. And then we had our demos done, like Cody will just program drums, send it to me. I'll record at my house. And then like I said, I've known Chris for 12 years, 15 years. And he's kind of been out of the scene for most of that time. He hasn't been actively in bands and like touring and playing shows, but I see him posting like some of his own stuff, like on SoundCloud. He'll do acoustic songs or whatever. So I just kind of hit him up. I was like, hey man, like I see you've been posting stuff lately, like check out this band, like I'd love to get your voice on it. And he was really into it. So it was just kind of me reaching out to him, and he was down. So
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So with this band, I mean, you put out a full record, right? Or you have an album,
it's just,
or EP?
No, it's just, yeah. So we kind of mistakenly, we called it an EP. It's actually just 2 songs with the interlude. So
okay.
I guess technically it's a single, like a 3-track single.
Okay. With Envenom, that's the whole project?
So the full,
just one piece of it?
Yeah, the full like single is called Detach, Envenom.
Okay.
And then there's 2 singles called Detach and Envenom.
Got it. Okay.
An interlude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's rad. So this was put together over quarantine, and you're doing, and you've also with Softspoken did a cool cover of the Paramore Ain't It Fun song.
Yeah.
So you've been working between the 2 bands?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, so that cover, actually, we've had that done for like a year.
Oh, really?
We had our, like, Softspoken had our EP cycle that we just kind of got put out in May. And we didn't want to break it up, with a cover, so we just kind of waited until it was out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
So, so right now, difference between those first 2 songs we recorded, I think in March maybe, but we had like 10 songs written when we went in March, and then we just finished in June recording another 5 songs for like an actual EP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So right now, the difference between is kind of chilling, and I'm kind of in Softspoken writing mode, is where my brain is. But
okay, yeah. And you guys are doing a tour, or at least some shows coming up, right? With Softspoken.
Yeah. So we have a show tonight. Actually,
oh wow,
is our first show back. So we're playing. I don't know if you're familiar with the band Varsity. And another band called,
sounds familiar.
Another band called Wake at Last. We're opening for their show tonight.
That is right, and it's going to be your first time playing live in what, a year and a half?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
we'll see how it goes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're pretty psyched or nervous at
all. Not really. I might be a little bit when we get there, just shaking off the rust a little bit, but
right.
Yeah, we had a practice last night, and everything seemed to be going well. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow. And what about the difference between, are you guys going to get a live show together and play, or is it just still going to be sort of a, side project in the sense of just writing, recording music?
Yeah, we definitely want to play, like, when we can. There's just like logistics. Like, all of us except for Cody, the drummer, live in Kentucky. Cody lives in Pennsylvania, like 8 hours away. So
oh wow.
So like when we've recorded, he'd take like a week off work and come down and track and then drive home, kind of thing. So we're just trying to, like, we definitely want to play a show, but we want to make it worthwhile. Like, it might not be worth it for him to drive down for just some run of the mill show. So we're just trying to, like, figure that out. He's talked about moving to Kentucky, so we'll see if that happens or not. But yeah, I mean, definitely we want to, but there's no solid plans for a show yet.
Gotcha. Rad. Well, that's awesome that you're doing a show tonight, and then it looks like you have some more dates coming up as well with Softspoken.
Yep.
That is awesome. And thanks for doing this, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully Chris feels better. I mean, that sucks to come down with something like that.
For sure. Yeah. And I was going to say, like, I don't know if, if you specifically wanted to talk to him and have questions with him, you know, we can reschedule and get that figured out too.
No, this has been great. I love talking with you. This has been cool. And I have one more question for you, though, before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So like outside of the bands that I'm in, I'm also an artist manager. And then Cody, and difference between we have a label. So I kind of have my hands in a lot of different baskets. Wow. Yeah. So that band Varsity I mentioned earlier, actually, I manage them. And I manage a couple other bands. Like the biggest band on the roster is I Set to Kill. I'm not their direct manager, but I work, you know, with them. So to your question, I guess my biggest piece of advice is to learn as much as you can on your own. And definitely don't be afraid to ask people for their input or their opinions or advice. It's always better to learn as much as you can and then apply what you learn against your own testing in a sense, you know. So like you're never really going to learn unless you have the experience yourself. Just the same as when I went to Japan, I didn't really learn Japanese until I lived it, you know. Mm-hmm. And I would say the same with music. Like you can read as many blog posts as you want about the best way to release a song or the best way to go on tour. And it's good to be prepared, but you don't really know until you make the mistakes. So, you know, study and learn. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid of a no, because that's just a chance for you to grow from that spot is my biggest piece of advice.